Now 250,000. Now, but to get 275. High, but to get 275. 3. Now 300,000. Now 3 1/4, 325. High, but to get 3 1/4, but to get 325. Now half. Now, but to get 300.
And hello from Addison, Texas, at Casa Jones. Welcome to the McGavel Jones Show. We're happy to have you on. We've had a hiatus. It's almost like we've been on vacation, and but I felt like it was time to get back on and address some things, and also tell you some things that we have going on with our business. It is April the 6th, 2020. We're now entering into the third week of the coronavirus pandemic here in the United States. A historic time, one that we never thought we'd see. Our lives are turned upside down. When you wake up and you realize there's no sports on television, if you're watching recorded shows from the past, you're spending more time with family members than you ever have before. You're finding out whether you even like your family anymore. It's actually been a blessing for us because we've had a chance to spend time together as a family. I'm used to being on an airplane. We're not on an airplane. In fact, I haven't been out of this building in 4 days since I went to the grocery store, and we're getting pretty close. I'm getting a little bit of cabin fever. I may have to step out and get groceries or pick up the mail. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do something pretty soon. But we welcome you to the show. I'm glad to have you on. The shelter in place is quite an interesting thing. I think the biggest thing that concerns me is that it doesn't seem like we have consistency anywhere. You have some governors that have bought into shelter in place. Some cities and counties have. You have extremes, and then you have a lackadaisical view of everything. When you have kids down on the beaches in Miami 2 weeks ago, I don't know how you keep from spreading a virus. I don't know how you do that, because they're going to go home, and they're going to go home to their family members. So it's no surprise. Unfortunately, we don't have consistency, but we're going to see how this all pans out. Hopefully within the next 30 to 45 days, we'll be back to normal. Of course, this has affected every phase of our business as well as it has yours. Our real estate business, of course, continued. We have a closing today in Nebraska. We are closing on the Johnson County Marina, Johnson Lake, I should say, up in Johnson County, Nebraska. So we're excited for that closing to take place because the folks that bought that property obviously know that the future's right around the corner, where the world will continue to turn, and we'll be back to business as usual before you know it. We want to send out our thanks to all of the folks out there that are working in the grocery stores, all the folks who are the first responders, the nurses, the firemen, the policemen, and there's just a lot of people. In fact, I was going to send out a Facebook post about thanking all the people, and then I realized we don't have enough time to thank everybody, from the truck drivers on down who keep the supply chains going to the highway patrolmen who are guarding the state lines and trying to protect us from the pandemic. So we would just say thank you and send our blessings and prayers out to everybody who's putting their life in harm's way in order to provide things for us. I do want to send out a heartfelt condolence to the family of Matt Matthews. Matt Matthews has been a friend for over 40 years. He operated Matthews Photography in Gainesville, Texas, and some of the very first photographs, family photos that were ever taken were taken by Matt. He took all the class photos for the high school and all the elementary schools for years and years, probably photographed 90% of Cook County over about a 30, 40-year period. I did have the pleasure of knowing him to the point that, when we needed a photographer for the National Auctioneers Association conventions, I did recommend him, and he was with us for a long time and probably covered 10 or 12 conventions over the years, and then also the Texas Auctioneers Association. And then at the same time, he was our class photographer for Texas Auction Academy, and then we transitioned, of course, to America's Auction Academy. His great wife, LaDonna, he started getting into a situation of memory loss. He was having dementia, and we saw it, even when he was working with us. I would say, come on down, Matt, come on down from Gainesville to Dallas, and let's meet at the school. And he would call me, and he had drove right past the town of Louisville and was on his way to Dallas and had basically forgotten where he was going. And so we knew we had some challenges there, and you could tell he was a little irritated, which goes with dementia and memory loss. And so they retired from photography and moved up to Missouri to be with family members. And that's where he's been for the last several years. So we want to send out heartfelt condolences to Matt Matthews' family, his children, and his wife. And we're very sad about that passing. Interestingly enough, on this Ebola situation, not Ebola, we were just talking about Ebola before this. It feels like it ought to be Ebola, but on this this coronavirus, there seems to be some confusion between our governor and also Clay Jenkins, our county commissioner in Dallas, as far as the use of the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. And that'll be interesting to see what we do there, because we got to get these guys on the same page. I know they're doing the best they can in a very challenging and difficult time. I'm sure their phones are ringing off the wall. So we need to kind of be patient. Let's just put it that way. We need to be, we're in a time where we need to be patient. We need to be kind. We need to love. And, at the end of the day, this is how we define our generation, this generation. It's also going to define how we are and who we are as human beings, how we handle this, how we treat our family members. It's the little things that we never thought we had to think about. Just being nice. I find myself, you might want to just kind of calm down a little bit. You're getting a little tense. And I said, yes, I'm a little tense. And of course, we're trying to run multiple companies. I'm feeling really bad for our fundraising and benefit clients. We've had to cancel probably 7 or 8 fundraising events here in North Texas from Operation Kindness. We had a couple of deals down in Austin, Texas. So we are putting a lot of stuff on back burner. And the thing you need to remember is, just like us as human beings, and from a standpoint of our finances, all of our 501c3s, no matter whether they're in New York City or California or Dallas, Texas, this adversely affects everything that they're doing, because they need these funds in order to operate. I was talking to someone the other day in regard to, a lot of people being at home. Well, this is when people lose it, and they mistreat family members, and that's where we get into abuse, both from adults and children. So just try to be aware of what's going on around you, and if you know there's something going on wrong, try to help out with it, address it, help get somebody in there to help these people, because there's a lot of programs, and there's a lot of apps, and there's a lot of places people can go and get online counseling. And I think that's a really good thing. So I'm going to get off the coronavirus for a minute, and also just send a shout out right now to my buddy Trelvis, our producer. He's on, and he's working remotely, and I appreciate him very much. You don't realize how much you appreciate people till you can't touch them, can't shake their hand, can't say thank you in person, and that personal touch. I'm sure all the pastors and the preachers across the United States and around the world are having a hard time, because they're not able to shake hands with the flock. They're standing in front of a room with a camera. It's a very different experience, as is this one for me. I did enjoy last night watching country music television. They had quite a program, 2-hour program last night. It was all acoustic. It was quite good. I'm not a huge fan of modern country music, but for the most part, these artists were truly artists, and they know how to play when they can actually play an instrument and actually sing a song without having to have musical backup. And that's when you find out who the real artists are. And we got to see that firsthand last night. That was awesome. Now, I want to talk about United SCS, Strategic Client Services, who we are, what we are, and why we are, especially at this time with the economy like it is. Now, if you're not familiar with the company, prior to my life with United, I ran an auction liquidation company for about 27 years, and heavy duty the last 15 to 20. selling industrial facilities and machine shops and all kinds of things. I want people to know about the services that we offer, because right now there's a lot of businesses, manufacturing businesses, retail businesses, all kinds of commercial enterprises that are having a hard time, to the point that some of them are going to fail, and they're probably going to be in a position where they can't continue. One of the things that we do as a company is we are ramping up to help our clients, and some of our previous clients from, say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We are a turnkey real estate and asset disposition answer. When I say asset, I'm talking about furniture, fixtures, equipment, anything related to running a commercial enterprise. That includes appraisals, inspections, site appraisals, site inspections, brokerage, liquidations. It also includes online and live auctions. And in some cases, when a client needs immediate assistance, we may be talking about a buyout where we literally come in and buy the assets. We've been doing this for the better part of 40 years. We're in a different time now. This particular time is equivalent to the Great Depression. There's never been a time where we've lost more jobs in a shorter period of time. Now, having said that, if you look at the number of people that lived in the United States in 1928 compared to 2020, it's all relevant. It's all. You got to look at the numbers, because we had quite a smaller number of people living here in 1928. Having said that, we want to remind folks that if you are in a situation, I don't care whether you are in a retail business or we've sold every type of business or every type of asset possible. We are fortunate that we have that experience. We have over 100 years of experience in the area of selling, and going back to 1978 when I started the company. I want to remind you that we do business brokerage, and we also have a relationship with a business brokerage company. We actually own one of their franchises, which gives us the ability to tap into all their resources and all their 225 to 250 business brokers across the United States. So here again, we have the ability to offer more than most companies. We also, in some cases, especially in regard to assets, if you have a manufacturing operation or a machine shop or pretty much any kind of business. It can be a hospital. We've sold hospitals. We can also act as a third-party intermediary. So I can also go in and represent you with the banks and the lenders and try to negotiate the best possible outcome for you, whether it's to buy time or to work out terms. That's another thing that we can possibly do for you. Our experience is in everything from manufacturing, industrial plants, metal fabrication, woodworking, food service, food processing, material handling equipment, everything from racking systems to forklifts. In about 2005, we were contacted by a company called Asset Control. They had a relationship with Textron Finance, and Textron Finance had about, I guess, $5 to $8 million worth of snorkel lifts that were located on the East Coast. This was about the time that I was retiring as president of the National Auctioneer Association about a week after this auction that we did. So we worked with a fellow NAA member in Richmond, Virginia. We leased space from him and then worked with him on his consignment equipment auction. So he did his regular consignment, construction equipment auction, utility companies, etc. And then we supplemented the sale with our snorkel lifts. This was right after 9/11. And so they were still doing a lot of work at Ground Zero in New York City. And we had worked really hard to get the buyers put together. And we had a gentleman show up, and he flew in from, I believe he was from Cleveland, Ohio. In fact, I know he was from Cleveland. He flew his Learjet into Cleveland, Ohio, and proceeded to spend about $5 million on snorkel lifts we did not know that he was one of the large vendors at Ground Zero. So all those snorkel lifts, I'd say 80% of them were then transferred to Ground Zero to clean up the site, remove the debris, and it takes a lot of equipment to do that. So we've been involved in a lot of unique different things. We've sold airplanes in Kansas City and Dallas. We've done consignment auctions of aircraft. We've worked with Bombardier, when they were heavy duty in the finance department. Bombardier, of course, they're in the jet business. They also do watercraft. So they repossessed a dealership, a boat dealership here in Dallas-Fort Worth, and we liquidated that. In fact, that was 3 days before the National Auctioneers Convention in Boise, Idaho. The funny thing is, when you do these deals over the years, you become so in the moment that it becomes ingrained. You know where you were. You almost remember the date. I was talking to someone the other day. We sold about 300 Western Auto stores, which is now called Advance Automotive. And we sold a Western Auto store or an associate store somewhere in the United States every week for 20 years is how that worked out. And I can tell you that on January 22nd, 1983, I was in San Angelo, Texas, doing an auction for Western Auto Supply Company. Now, don't ask me how I remember dates. I don't know. I can't tell you what I did last week. I can't even tell you what I had for dinner last night, but I can tell you that on January the 22nd, 1983, I was selling out a Western Auto store in San Angelo. And that's just kind of the way your business works if you're really in tune with what you do for a living. I want to tell you a few sale highlights. And Travis, I'm going to ask you to give me the sign on time. So when we get down to, say, 10 or 15 minutes, just give me the sign and that'll be fine. I'm going to let you be my timekeeper, all right? Excuse me while I take a sip of coffee. I've got to have a little juice here. I promise you it is just coffee, nothing additional, even though we are in a pandemic and I would have every opportunity to doctor up my coffee this morning. We are not doing Bailey's. We are serious journalists today. So just a few things to remember if you consider working with United SCS. It's only been 2 years ago that we sold 120 properties in Duchesne, Utah. It was all done in one day. We worked with Gary Hubble out in Colorado, and our office handled that sale. We sold a hometown, and then also building lots, development lots. We did a lot of that. Over the last 25 years, we've worked with Textron Finance through Asset Control, and we've conducted auctions all over the United States and in Mexico. For those in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, you're very familiar with Lycoming aircraft engines. Lycoming resurfaces and reconditions aircraft engines, and they're one of the largest companies in the world that does that. And we 20 years ago, we sold auto parts manufacturing operations in Orlando. In fact, I had our good friend Don Shear, the auctioneer, who's in the National Auctioneers Hall of Fame, used to be the Disney auctioneer for many, many years. He helped us with that auction. I want to send a shout out to Don. He's going through some health issues and on the mend, but we always think about Don and Janet Shear. We love those guys. Intesis Technologies down in Gilbert, Arizona. Intesis manufactured Nokia cell phones, and they literally manufactured everything from the granular pieces of plastic all the way to the finished product. They called it the Lamborghini of cellular phone manufacturing facilities. We also sold their plant at Alliance Airport. Moving along, Textron Turf Care. Textron purchased a lot of companies. Steiner Mowers out of Ohio. We did an auction at that plant. They're still in business, but we eliminated one of their facilities in Dayton, not Dayton, but it was in Ohio. Steiner Mowers, also Jacobson Mowers up in Racine, Wisconsin. We liquidated that plant. And we also did the old Cushman Motor Works in Lincoln, Nebraska. That was probably one of our biggest. It was 8 acres of equipment under roof. the property was sold as well. Half the property went to a racing team, and the other half went to the University of Nebraska for about $10.5 million. This has been 20 years ago. So being in business for 40 years, we have history in every year of selling different kinds of business. Alamo Iron Works down in San Antonio, Trinity Industries here in Dallas. These are all companies we worked with. Polk Mechanical, they're still in business, but we eliminated them at one time. They sold out, and then I guess they had an ownership change, and then they came back stronger than ever. I just saw one of their vans going down the road here in Dallas the other day. Hawes and Tingle, general contractors out of Fort Worth, one of the largest general contractors in Dallas-Fort Worth, went into bankruptcy. We handled that liquidation. Hawes and Tingle is known for remodeling the Little Red Courthouse in downtown Dallas, and then also building the tram around DFW Airport. And then they also built the printing plant for U.S. currency in Fort Worth, Texas. So these are companies with a long-standing business history. Unfortunately, they didn't make it for one reason or the other. Four Rivers Onion Packing in Idaho, the Pride of the South Catfish Processing Plant in Mississippi. That was one of our first ones when we came on with United Country Real Estate. That was our first auction. That was a commercial enterprise. We sold it and the building. The gentleman that owned that at the time owned 8 John Deere dealerships across the Midwest and was quite a business aficionado. Aspen Air with our friend Trey Galloway down in Belton, Texas. Classic Cabinet out in West Valley, Utah, a cabinet manufacturing facility. We also, my friend Scott Swinson and I, business partner for many years, did a chair manufacturing company at the Port of Brownsville. In Brownsville, you can own the building and everything in it, but you can't own the land that it's on because it's owned by the port. And people don't realize how big the port is in Brownsville. But we had a very successful auction there. And then I was contacted by a company out of Israel called Nucor. And Nucor, if you're not familiar, they build the printing presses that print on vinyl that ultimately become your billboards. So you see these giant billboards and they're printed and it's on vinyl, and they take that vinyl and apply it to the big billboards on the freeways and all the highways and across the United States. Well, Nucor was a manufacturer for those printing presses. And so we liquidated that company down in San Antonio probably 17 years ago. And it was a great auction. Nucor is still in the business. They've gone back in business again. A lot of companies go away and come back. From a historic standpoint, we've sold a couple of really cool companies. Whitesell Brick and Lumber, if you're from Corsicana, Texas, it goes back to the 1800s. They manufactured bricks, and then they had a big lumber yard. We sold them out several years ago. Many of you know that through my friend Barbara Bonnet over in Louisiana, we ended up selling the Montgomery Ward stores and distribution centers in Texas and Oklahoma. Very large presence in Texas and Oklahoma. And that was a really neat deal. We were able to hire a lot of folks to work that, including our good friends, Craig and Angie Meyer. They were freshly married. They just got married and they spent their honeymoon setting up auctions for me across the state of Texas, because that was their project. So Eastern Electric, which used to be Westinghouse, Eastern Electric had plants all over the United States, and from Buffalo, New York, all the way down to Dallas, Texas. We liquidated those in about a 6-week period of time. Pioneer Pipe Stringing, we've done a lot of oil field service companies over the years. We liquidated Pioneer. They were actually located in Gainesville and belonged to a gentleman named Eddie Ballou. Ballou Trucking was a well-known family enterprise in Gainesville, Texas for many, many years. People don't know that Lowe's was in Texas in the 80s. They came in and bought out a lot of the Boise Cascade locations and then some other independents. So in comes Lowe's from North Carolina. They put in they basically bought those units and then converted them to Lowe's building centers. They lasted until about 1987, and they started closing. So they basically shuttered the stores. They couldn't. They thought they had everything sold, but they couldn't make a deal, and so ended up we took them to auction. And in that period of time, I can't remember. I guess it would be 1988. Between July and September, we did 14 Lowe's lumber yards, 5 Western Auto stores, and 3 bank auctions. This is during one of the recessions. And so we had a great run. For those down in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, we did Schwegman groceries. Schwegman grocery stores were like the Walmart of grocery stores in the 50s. And one of their stores was 400,000 square feet. So they were ahead of their time. But over time, management issues became a factor, and they are no longer in business today. But we were honored to have the opportunity to sell the oldest family-owned grocery chain in the United States, going back to 1875. We also have liquidated hospitals. We did DFW Medical Center here in Grand Prairie. That was about, that was probably 13, 14 years ago. And then we also did the Winnie Community Hospital, which went into bankruptcy through Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so the Winnie Hospital, we liquidated the Winnie Hospital and all of its assets. Anytime you sell medical assets, it's a very complicated process. So you really have to know what you can sell and who you can sell it to. And then here again, we have sold a lot of restaurants. My good friend with Chili's, he used to be the CEO of Chili's, and we sold, in this case, we purchased 45 units of Macaroni Grill, On the Border, Corner Bakery, and Chili's locations that they wanted to close from Aurora, Colorado, all the way up to New York. And we purchased those. So we have the capability of buying assets if we need to. We like working for other people, but we'll be happy to buy them if that's the situation that they request. Sounds good. So we just want to remind you that we have 700 affiliates nationwide between United Country Real Estate and United Real Estate. We can sell any type of real estate. We've just added UC commercial properties at our convention a few weeks ago. We've been in the commercial real estate business for about 25, 30 years, actually over 30 years. And so we can handle anything from a marina in Nebraska to a marina in Bossier City, Louisiana, to a restaurant chain, to a grocery chain, to manufacturing, pretty much anything and everything you can imagine. And we're also very conscious of the UCC1 requirements to make sure it's done correctly. So in the preparation of an auction or a liquidation, or if you just need to sell one asset, listen, if you just need to sell one asset or 10 assets or 20, we can handle it. Live or online, that's what we do for a living. And all you have to do is give me a call. You can call me at 214-906-5265. Again, 214-906-5265. And I'm sure Travis will probably post that when he gets a moment, and he can actually embed that into the screen. And also my email is mike@united- little dash sign, scs.com, united-scs.com, and just put Mike in the beginning of it. If you have questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. If you have properties in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or we're doing ranch properties. Gary Hubble and I right now have something called Battlement Mesa. You want to check it out, you can Google it. It's probably $10, $12 million opportunity. There'll be probably 20, 30 properties, 25 to 30 properties in that event. We are going to list them traditionally first, so you have an opportunity to buy them in advance. And then any properties that are not sold at the conclusion of that period will go to auction. But if you're interested in that, check out Battlement Mesa. It's between Aspen, Colorado and Grand Junction. And then I'm also working with Jeff Raines over in South Carolina on multiple properties right now that we will be looking at either a traditional listing or an auction scenario. Don't hesitate to call me if you have questions. That's what we do. But United SCS is your answer. If you need to sell something today, we specialize in marketing. That's what we do. We market, and we want to make sure the world knows about your assets, no matter what the situation. All of our discussions are confidential. There's no cost to you for consultation, and just give me a call. I'll be happy to visit with you and talk about whatever the situation is. The main thing we want to do is be very transparent, document everything, do it in a timely manner, and make sure you get paid quick. So I think that's the bottom line. And you can feel comfortable in knowing that we are insured, bonded, and licensed all over the United States. And we also work in Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama, Australia, and China. So if you need anything, just give me a shout. Travis, we about done? Yep, Travis is giving me the thumb up. So ladies and gentlemen, this is our first remote broadcast of the McGavel Jones Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll point out a couple of things, Travis, because I know you were looking at the stuff on the wall. This is the Dallas Cowboys print that was done a few years ago, signed by all the Dallas Cowboys. This is actually, for those that know the Dallas Cowboys, back in the day when Roger Staubach came on, so was Craig Morton. And Craig Morton was our quarterback. And then, of course, ultimately, Roger the Dodger, America's quarterback, ended up, Captain America took over the team, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. And they had a couple of interesting games with Miami. This particular piece is a players edition. They did certain ones just for players, and this was Craig Morton's piece. And of course, Craig played for the Cowboys. He went on to play for the New York Giants and then Denver. And the Cowboys actually played Craig in the Super Bowl. Of course, the Cowboys won that. And but anyway, I love that piece. And then right above me is one of the original pennants from 1960. It's the Dallas Cowboys, right after the Texans headed off to Kansas City. And but that is an original pennant. I actually bought that a couple years ago. And the piece right here where my finger is an original block of season and honoring the stadium. And it's a really neat piece. It highlights every player. Travis, have I got just a minute? Can I show that? Okay, all right. I've got my producer, director telling me what I can and cannot do. This is probably my favorite Cowboy piece, so I'm going to share it. And for all of you that are not Cowboys fans, I'm sorry. You'll just have to bear with me. But if you look at this piece, it highlights a Ring of Honor player, and then it's signed by each one of them individually. It's an original signature, and it's got everybody from Mr. Cowboy, Bob Lilly, to Tom Landry, all the way down the line. And then they had just inducted Bob Hayes, Bullet Bob, one of the fastest men in the world, who went to the Olympics, great number 22, before there was an Emmitt Smith. And then also Tex Schramm. They had just put him in the Ring of Honor. And I actually purchased this at Texas Stadium at an event we did. We did the annual fundraiser for the Ring of Honor. I did the auction and was able to pick this up. But anyway, I love this piece, and it's kind of one of my prized possessions. So if you're a Cowboy fan, this is something, and it's also got a graphic of Texas Stadium on there. And then, of course, people that have been to my home here, Casa Jones, knows that I have a pair of Texas Stadium seats right below my television. So I get to look at Texas Stadium every time I watch a TV show. So I'm going to wrap this thing up. Travis, thanks for a great job. We're going to start broadcasting more remote broadcast, and also we'll be doing some split screen interviews with people that we'd like to interview. And I understand that we're going to have some of the Dallas Cowboys on, and maybe some other folks that aren't Cowboys, maybe somebody from another National Football League team or another state. But it should be interesting. We try to keep it interesting for you. So on behalf of everybody that's a part of this one, Travis, thank you very much. Also, Trent, thank you for doing the technical things here on my end. On behalf of everyone, the McGavel Jones Show, God bless you. Stay on the other side wealthier and happier than they've ever been before. I truly believe with God's help and your help, we'll be just fine. So we'll see you on the other side. We'll see you next time. We bid you adieu from Addison, Texas. God bless. See you next time. Bye-bye.